Okay, this is Analytics Chapter 6, so I'm going to download the template, and it is going to be an Excel document, which opened up on my other screen. So here it comes. So this is really the data right here. So I'm going to just enable editing, and I'm going to rename this data just because I like to do that. All right, so the first step asks us to use a pivot table to calculate the total sales for each month. So I'm going to go back to Excel. I'm going to put my cursor anywhere in the table. Doesn't have to be anywhere special. Insert pivot table. And I'm just going to take the default, right? Because it's already selecting a table to put it in a new worksheet, which is exactly what I want. All right. You can relabel this, you know, like step 1 or whatever, but you don't have to. Okay. Here's my pivot table. So if the field list doesn't come up automatically, then go ahead and just put it up. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this as long as the data comes over. So what I did is I put the months in the, I just put the months in the rows column here, and then I put the selling price in the values, and it came up with this. I always make sure and format this correctly so it's dollars and cents. So that's the first one. Come over here, back to the question, then it wants you to upload something, and you know, you can have them do that or not, but then you can see which month had the highest sales total and what was the total and which one had the lowest. So if I come up over here, I can see that October was the highest and December was the lowest. Of course, I could always sort these, couldn't I? Yes, I could. But anyway, I'm just going to keep going here. So October highest, so I would literally just put October highest and December was lowest, and then I copy paste the numbers over. All right, so then the next part says use a pivot table to calculate total sales by property type. So now I'm going to go back to my data. I'm going to come over here, insert a pivot table. All right, now it wants it by property type. All righty. Oh, and I do believe that it wanted a chart, so let me go back over here. I did forget my chart. So anyway, over here, you can, as long as you're in the pivot table itself, you can do a pivot chart. It just wants an easygoing graph. So there you have it. All right. Okay, so for the next one, I'm going to insert a pivot table. Did I already do that? I don't know. Maybe did I already do that? Yeah, I already did that. All right. So here we go. And now it wants it by month. So I'm going to take the type, put it in the column. I'm going to put the month over here in the row, and I'm going to put the selling price over here. All right. Again, I'm going to change these to dollars so they look like dollars. Now, you know what? There's nothing wrong with you putting type over here and months over there. You can see that that also works. It doesn't really matter. That's the great thing about a pivot table. All right. But I do, again, like to put those in dollar format. So that takes care of the second question. And once you do that, then it says which had the highest residential, or let's see, which month had the highest residential. So here I can see highest residential was in January, and highest land was in November. So I would just answer those questions right there. Okay. So then, I think it wanted me to upload the file there. Okay. All right, and the third question asks which month had the lowest number of residential sales. So no, we don't want the dollars, we want a number. So I'm going to come back to my spreadsheet. I'm going to go back to the data tab. I'm going to insert another pivot table. I guess, you know, you could do the same pivot table. Oh, and this one did want a chart. So again, I can just go to the pivot chart. It wanted a bar chart. Okay, that's probably a better visual representation when answering the questions. Okay, so now I am on to, just so I don't lose track, which one had the number of sales transactions. All right, so my number of sales transaction, I'm going to put the type in the column. I'm going to put the month in the row. Could have done that vice versa, couldn't I? Right? And then I'm going to put the, here I'm going to put this, but I'm going to do a count instead of dollars. So to do that, once the sum of the selling price is in here, I can do a drop down, I can do value field settings, and instead of sum, I could do count. I could do average, min, max. I could do all kinds of things, but this one just wants me to count it. Then it changes it into the actual numbers. Isn't pivot table a cool thing? So then you can answer the question, which month had the lowest residential and which one had the lowest commercial. So then I could sort these, but I could see the answers right there. Okay, in number 4. Okay, question 4, actually we're going to use more filtering. So it says which month had the highest single sales in Henderson County. So I'm actually going to go to my spreadsheet, go back to the data tab. And now, because there's filters already built in, which is kind of cool, I'm going to go and filter just by Henderson County. I always forget what it's going to add. Henderson County and single sales of land. So I'm going to come over here. So I'm going to filter this by land. And then, lo and behold, I can see what the highest sale of land was in Henderson County. So that is the filtering option. Then you can filter by which month had the single sales of residential and Polk. I'll just do one more just for fun. So we're going to come over here. We're going to deselect Polk. Okay, there's Polk, and it wanted residential. So then I'm going to sort by residential, and voila. Then you can see the highest sale there and answer the question. So that's pretty much how these go over here, right? They are all just using the filtering option. So then let's go to the next one. So it says part A. Okay, this one's a little bit tricky. So here's where we're going to use the filtering, or excuse me, we're going to use the if statement. I don't know how anybody would expect someone to know how to do these filterings, but it basically wants to say, hey, okay, I'm going to get rid of all my filters here. Clear filter and clear filter. Okay, so now I'm back to all of the data. So it wants to know which of the prices is, less than 100,000, between 100 and 200,000, 2 to 3, and so on and so forth. So finally put the if statement in here. Now it comes up with all the right information. So this one's between 100 and 200. This one's less than 100,000. This one's between 2 and 300. So we've got it right. So now I'm going to insert a pivot table here. Oh, Lord. Okay. And I'm going to go back there. Where did I go? Okay. I'm going to rename this. So I'm going to get rid of this pivot. Well, let's see. I'm actually kind of curious. Okay. So let's go over here. I'm going to rename this price ranges. Okay, and now I'm going to go to my pivot table. This is actually requirement 5. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here. Yeah, see, it doesn't carry over, so it doesn't make me happy. So I'm going to come back over here where the data is. Now I've got the price range. I'm going to come up to insert a pivot table. Right over here. Now I've got the price ranges. Alrighty, so we are in business, and now I'm going to take that price range because I'm going to count it. So in a minute it's going to give me that. Alright, so then I'm going to take my price ranges and also list it in the row here, and now you can see how many of each I have. Alright, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to just see what happens if I put it in column C. That's kind of neat too. Okay, but look, it looks pretty good in rows. All right, so now we can go back to connect and answer the question. And the questions were like, how many are below 100,000? So if I come over here, I can see that those that are below 100,000, there's 49 of them. How many are between 100 and 200, and so on. Okay, so hallelujah, that was probably the trickiest part. Oh, whoopsie. Okay, so let's try that again. And the next thing was to summarize using a bar chart. So we know how to do that all day long. We can come over here. We can put in a pivot chart. The first one that comes up is the bar chart. Okay, so easy enough. Let's see what else we have here. The other one should be fairly similar. Which price range had the highest number of residential transactions? How many transactions occurred within that range? And for this one, I'm going to do it slightly differently. So I'll come back to my data sheet that had my things over here. I'm going to insert one last pivot table into a new worksheet. I'm going to come over here, and on this one I'm going to put the price range in the rows. I'm going to put the type in the filter, and I'm going to show you why in a minute, and then the price range is also over here. Okay, so it's giving me a count, but now the question was asking for what's the price range with the highest number of residential sales transactions. So here under type, I can actually sort by residential. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? And then I can answer that question. How many transactions occurred in that range? Okay, so what's the price? The price range with the highest number of residential, the number of transactions that occurred, right? So I can see that the highest was below 100,000, so that would be below 100,000. And then how many occurred within that range? That would be 16. Okay, so that is that one. Does it want me to make in kind of a chart? All right, summarize the number of commercial transactions. Okay, so that's fine. I actually think I can use the same one because now I'm just going to filter instead on commercial, and then I can answer all those questions right there. And if it asks me for a chart, easy enough. I can just come over here, do a pivot chart, and there it is. I could make it pretty if I wanted to, right? I could change some colors. Oh, what fun we are having.